well. Um, Let me see if I can share this thing. How do I share this block or this Word document? Um, okay, copy link. Aha, there we go. All right. So there's the YouTube video, and then there's my instructions that I kind of went ahead and put in here alongside this. Now it looks pretty cumbersome. The last 2 pages here are more or less just explaining like the layout of how things work. Do you want to talk about this? I kind of used the countertop block as the example here. Um, let's see if I can make this. Oh, I don't want that. I want to make this like large enough so that it all fits on a screen. Oh, well, that'll have to do, I guess. So we can read through these real quick. These are, oh, hey, Kelly. Can you read through these real quick? So this is kind of like my, what I kind of put in here is like a way to kind of figure out how to do this stuff. It's pretty complicated, so it's not going to be something that clicks right away, most likely. So don't get too frustrated with it if you want to make a block like this. It's just, I had to write these down in case that video ever does get taken off of YouTube or that user ends up deleting their account or whatever. We do need something to be able to refer back to know how to do these, because without this step-by-step thing, I don't think I could even remember how to do this without something to reference to. Um, all right, so these are what's called reverse double lookup table blocks. I can even put dynamic block in there, but I'm not going to. That's enough words for one day. What that is this real fancy jargon for you are able to have multiple visibility states tied to your block. So you got all these little guys here. Um, you can see those in your properties. So if you go over your properties, you can see those different drop downs there, like countertop thickness, subtop type, ledger strips, 1-inch scribe, and then the double apron was just an added bonus. That wasn't something that was intentionally like something I was planning on building into it, but I had room to do it, so I built it anyway. Anyways, you guys are probably used to seeing this block, or at least using it from time to time, especially drawing cabinets, floating counters, and whatnot. These here are actually called lookups. We'll talk more about that here in a sec, but the lookups really are the buttons that the user is using, or the drop downs the user will be using um, to activate different visual states, so different drawings. And as you change these, your drawing here should also change as well. So like probably have a bunch of stuff on here that I need to take off, but let me just reset the block. That's kind of one of the downsides of these two is like if you have a lot of different settings to them, like for instance, like this one here allows you to switch between a bunch of different things. Not doing a very good job of showing it because once you reset it, sometimes it gets a little finicky. Let's see, and go back to no for everything. All right, here we go. Yeah, so you can switch between different types of counters here, whether it's using 3 centimeter tops, 2 centimeter tops, your 1/2 inch usually for like Corian and smaller materials, or like 3/4 MDF for like things like laminate. So this block kind of allows you to switch between all of those. It also allows you to change out what your subtop looks like. So if you don't want one, well, this is not a good example. It won't let me not show one because we wouldn't really ever have that for a laminate countertop. But if I had like a 3 centimeter top and I said no subtop, it can remove it for you, so you don't have to worry about deleting it or exploding the block. Um, anyways, so that is what is called a lookup. So this block has a total of 5 separate lookups. So it's pretty complicated. Most of the ones that you do see typically won't have that many. But sometimes you do need extra ones. So that's why this one has so many, because there's a lot of different settings that would need to be put into a countertop to make it usable. So anyways, just kind of looking at that there, that's just all the different things you can do with that. Now, Again, this is a more complicated example, but I used it for the purpose of the Word document here because it does showcase a lot of the different things you can do, and it actually kind of goes more in depth as far as like, okay, how do you set this stuff up? Because the one in the video, if you follow along with the video on YouTube, um, does show you how to do this too, but they only have 2 lookup drop downs on their block. And it's because they don't need more than that for what they're using it for. They're using it for like a sofa and an end table layout for like living room furniture sets. So for their example, it's less real world for us and more like just example like the house drawing we did with the block editor yesterday. So this one here has a lot more to it, is also more geared towards like what we would normally see at on-site here. But anyway, the first thing that you always want to do with these types of blocks, it will save your life, is if you start with a blank piece of paper and you literally make a napkin sketch of what you want the block to look like and what you want it to do. I kind of suggested in the instructions there, this is my napkin sketch, which I guess I could just scroll down to it. It's at the bottom there too. Right there. I made this like on a random Friday morning when I was trying to work on this block. So it is quite literally a napkin sketch. So this is me just saying, okay, I'm working on the countertop block. And then I labeled all these different things. Like my intention was to make it so you could change the thickness of your counter, make it so you could change what type of subtop you want, add in the ledger if you want. If not, turn it off. And the back apron and the scribe were also things that I was like, yeah, that'd be cool if we could do that. But I'm not going to see about, like, if we can't do it, I'm not going to sweat it either. So we were able to get all these into that same block. But what I started with was kind of like, this is what I want. This is my countertop block. And I'm starting with like a sketch of what a typical counter would look like. So I just kind of roughly sketched it out and was like, well, what do we need for countertops in general? Like what are the types of things that you will see from day in, day out for countertops? So I took that and I made a list of the different things that I think would be nice to have as like things that would function as different, have different functions in the block. So again, I went from thickness to subtop, ledger, the back apron here, which isn't shown in the sketch, but that's something you can turn on and off. And then the scribe, which is right there. Now, if you notice too, alongside each of these, I did put a little number there. And that number is actually to represent the number of bullets and points we have here. So why that is important is because in AutoCAD, the block editor does get a little bit bogged down after a certain number of views. As you're going to laugh, but as you get closer to 100 visual states in a block, it starts to get kind of laggy a little bit. So you want to try to minimize the amount of visual states if at all possible here. And so I try to stay away from any blocks that are going to have more than 100, which sounds ridiculous, but I'll show you why that's important here in a sec. So going back to those numbers, the numbers that are here are representing the different settings that are in each dropdown. So this one has 3 settings, this one has 3 as well. This one only has 2, this one has 2, and this one has 2 for on and off. Now, how you get the number of visual states you're going to need, you can kind of ballpark it a little bit. If you take the numbers on the left-hand side over here and you multiply all of those together, so if I go 3 times 3 times 2 times 2 times 2, that, I know it seems silly, but that's like 72 different visual states there. And so that fits within the realm of what I think is going to be possible in the block editor. Again, it's probably more than you're going to really need for most blocks, but because it has 3, 3, 2, 2, 2, multiply that all together, it brings about 72 different views. So always kind of start with that napkin sketch, kind of list out what you want that block to be able to do, and then run with it from there. So it's always good to start with that. Otherwise, it is easy to lose track of where you're at here. So I did suggest here you want to make 2 lists. The first list obviously is going to be anything you want the block to be able to do, like the more important things. So like the primary functions you want the block to have, you're going to want to make a list of those. And then what I would suggest too is if you have a block with a lot of different options set to it or different drop downs, make yourself a second list of things that you think would be nice to have, but aren't necessary to actually be able to use in the block. So that's important because if you get to a point where it starts to get laggy, you want to try to see what you can cut off so you're not like making over 100 views on this block. So I kind of just suggest that because like sometimes you will need that, but most times you may not. So I just say like, hey, make a priority list here. First priority would be anything that you actually need. Second priority would be, you know, more or less just like a aesthetic thing. Like, is it nice to have it in the block? Sure. But do you need it? Yeah, maybe not. So if you get to a really intensive block, hey, we'll probably need to look at those priorities. But most blocks, you probably just have your standard list, like what we had down here. This was my list here of the different things I wanted that block to be able to do. All right, so that's your napkin sketch. So I kind of added that in, put it at the back of the drawing. I scanned it in so we have a copy of it here too. Otherwise, it just lives in a folder in my desk over here. And then step 2, entering the matrix. Yeah, it's not as cool as it sounds, but this is kind of the next step in the process. And I can zoom in a little bit here so I can show you kind of like what I mean by that. So each of these blocks, if you've ever done any type of like coding or anything like that, which I really haven't, but other than working in this, what you kind of want to think about is each lookup or each setting that you've put on your block. So like the same thing that we just talked about, countertop thickness, the subtop type, if you want ledger or not, if you want scribe or not, if you want an apron on the back or not. I've labeled these as digit 1, digit 2, digit 3, digit 4, and digit 5. So why I'm calling this the matrix here is because you are essentially building computer code in a way where you have, in this case, a 5-digit number, and that 5-digit number pertains to these numbers here. And you're going to be assigning each of these X's or each digit here is going to be referring to these numbers here. So it doesn't actually matter what order you put this code in, as long as it makes a difference or makes sense to you. Like, you know, as you're programming this or you're building this block, you want to make sure that those digits are making sense to you. They're in the order you'd like to see them in. I just kept them in the same order that I had on my napkin sketch because that made the most sense to me and it was already kind of written out in front of me on my desk. So, and this code is something that you are completely building on your own. So like it can be whatever you'd like it to be. Like I just kind of suggest we go like 1 digit for each lookup. So that's kind of like what I'm thinking here. Kind of goofy. Again, it probably won't really click the first time you go through it. Maybe a couple tries at something like this and we'll have something that makes a little more sense. But yeah, so each lookup is a digit. So we got 1 lookup, lookup 2, lookup 3, lookup 4, and lookup 5, or digit 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then I always visualize it like this, where I have this little number here with 5 X's. Each X is one of those digits. So kind of goofy. This is kind of the thought process behind it and how you kind of want to view those. The video kind of goes into that, but not quite, because like I said, she's only doing like where your end table and where your sofa is located. So it's really more not as complicated as this, but like that's okay. It still gets you to the same place you need to be. So the next step in that process then would be to set up your AutoCAD drawing. So you don't have to do this in the block editor. In fact, I'd probably say you probably just want to do it in your model space. So if you're working on a block like the countertop, you want to actually draw every instance of that countertop, which is going to be crazy, kind of, because like I said, that's roughly about like 72 views. So you got to draw 72 different countertops, roughly. So kind of crazy, but by the time you're done with it, it makes the whole block function a lot easier and a lot more like a lot easier for the user instead of having to worry about custom drawing everything. You have like all those options built into one block. So what did I say here now? It's got to create all those blocks or all those drawings in AutoCAD and keep your ducks in a row and make sure we've captured every drawing. We need to make like a multiplication grid, essentially, going back to like middle school days here. So I'll look at that here with you guys. I got pictures of that. So we usually start with 2 digits or 2 functions of the block, and we'll start with that. So we're going to make that multiplication grid by picking 2 functions. I think I just did the first 2. So countertop thickness and the subtop. And I started making that grid. So going down here to the next view, you can kind of see that grid. The left-hand side of that grid is the thickness of the counter. The vertical or the underside of that is going to be the number or the subtop type. And anything with X's on it, I put an X on anything that was not actually something we would normally do. So like we wouldn't normally make a 3/4 inch counter with no subtop. So I just X'd it out. I was like, yeah, that's not something we do. So I'm not going to build that into the block. Same thing with like the 2 centimeter. Like generally you don't have any, or like you do need some kind of a subtop under that. So I just remove that function from the block. So I'm already limiting my views down from 72. I've already taken out 3 of the 72 views by saying like, hey, this isn't something that we would normally do. So now I'm down to 69 views already by cutting those out. Anyways, so that's what I was talking about with doing like a multiplication type grid is you start with like, okay, this is my thickness, this is my subtop, and then I have to like multiply those through almost. So like at 12 millimeters or 1/2 inch, I can do a full subtop and I could do strips, or 2 centimeters, same deal, full subtop or 2 strips. So I set up these grids in AutoCAD to be able to keep track of all of this information. Anyways, so from there, when you have multiple dropdowns, so like for our case here, we have 5. Once you've done the first grid, you need to come over to the side and make a second set of grids. So if I go back to the AutoCAD file I pulled those from, this was my step 1 grid. And then I came over, copied this over, copied 2 of them. And what I did there was now I still have my first set of options here, okay? And same deal with this. That's the same as the first grid we looked at, so nothing's changed so far. Then at the bottom, I added a note saying ledger off or ledger on. So that's why I need 2 grids, because this grid is taking everything from the first set and it's just putting it over here. Now, it doesn't actually change anything because there is no ledger on here, so that's the same grid as what we saw before. So nothing's changed there. We come over to here on the right, and I take that same grid, copy and paste it over here, and then add the ledger strips wherever we would normally use them. And again, there's more X's here because there's some areas that you wouldn't need a ledger strip. Like if you have subtop strips, you wouldn't use a ledger for that type of countertop. So I've taken those out of the equation here. So some of these are eliminated. You won't actually need them for your block. That's okay. All right. Well, then once you have option 3, going back to this here, there it is. Once you have this one set up, now you've got these 2 views all set up, and you've got this view set up. So you've got 3 of these lookups already programmed. Then you come over to here and you're going to add your scribe. So when you go back to AutoCAD, what you're going to see is we'll just come over here, and I literally copy and pasted these two grids twice because I have on or off for my ledger, so 2 more digits. So I'm copying all of this, pasting it here, and pasting it one more time. And then this one is, again, same as the last set. There was no scribe on that, so no scribe here too. But then you come over to the right, and this gives you the option to say ledger off or ledger on and scribe on for these. And again, we're eliminating a lot more views because you wouldn't have scribe and some of these items. So as you go through, you kind of have to process of elimination, kind of figure out like, what do I actually want to show? Like, what is actually something we would provide? So I've gone through and done that. Okay. And then the last thing we had was going back to our notes. We needed to put an apron on the back. So that's one more multiplication grid to add. And so we've added these 4 settings so far. We'll come over to the right, and this is my final grid because that's my last drop down that I'm adding. And so what I've done is, because the option 5, all right, sorry, option 5 is only 2, it's on or off, so it's 2 more grids. What I'm doing here is I'm going back to AutoCAD and I'm copying 2 of these over here. So one set here and one set over here. And then again, I have not changed these. The 4 on the left have not been changed since the last grid over here. The ones on the right are only us just adding in the back apron. So you can see whether or not you have an apron going from here, no apron here, going over here, you do have your apron. So again, this one is super complicated. It's more complicated than most of these are going to be. The one block that we're going to practice with, I'm not going to go crazy and throw all of these in there, but we'll talk about how to build one of these, but probably not like this exact one. It's just one that I had off to the side that made sense to look at. So anyways, once you have all of your grids set up, I kind of just drew a box around it and said final views, and then radixes do not exist because you can't have those. I also labeled my code down here. So digit 1 is thickness, digit 2 is subtop, digit 3 is ledger, digit 4 is scribe, yeah, tongue twister, and digit 5 is the apron on the back. So I kind of just put that there as a reminder to myself, saying like, hey, this is my code. That's what I'm sticking with. So I don't know why I have this over here. I guess that probably isn't important. Anyways, what I did from there, go back to our list here. We've got all of our drawings drawn. Got our grid set up. And let's see, we want to start with, okay, we've done that. Start with the 2 digits. We've multiplied that throughout, kind of gone through those steps. Oh yeah, I put this note here. Anytime there's like a little sign note I've put in here, I'm gonna well, maybe not highlight them. Maybe what I'll do is just make them a different color. There we go. Anyways, so this is something that's going to take a while, of course. You know, drawing 72 countertops is not something that's going to be like, oh, I can do this real quick in like 2 minutes. No, it's probably going to take you like at least half an hour or so to do it. So I did want to suggest or put a note in here saying like, this will take some time. So try not to get too frustrated with it, but also to make sure that you're being thorough with what you want the block to be able to do. Because the more thorough and detailed you can be with that, the better the block will function at the end of this. So again, kind of goofy, kind of complicated, but I did want to put that note there because really that will take some time to do. It took a minute for me to even figure out how to be able to make those grids because like it doesn't really talk about that in that video either. So I wanted to kind of at least put that in writing as to like how we are able to make that block do all the different things that it does. So going back down here is where you want to start in the block editor. And what we typically will do in a case like this is we are going to take the, I'm going to take all of this, which seems a little crazy. Actually, I'll just take all of this. I'm going to go and type in block. So for this step, this is actually where we start working on the actual block. So we're going to go, well, let's go CTOP because I don't think I named it that before. So CTOP, we're going to do the same thing we've done before. We need to pick a base point, which really doesn't really matter in this case, but we'll just put it on here anyway. And then want to make sure that we've selected all of the objects that we're bringing in with us. So I'm bringing in my entire grid. If I have any additional nodes, I'm going to bring those in too, but you may not have those nodes too. I'm just doing that right now. So block editor, go and create the block, pick our point, pick our objects, and we'll hit OK. And now if I double click on here, it's going to bring me to the block editor here. Okay, so in a case like this, let me see if I can. I'll have to jump back and forth between the existing block and this here. So this step 4, setting up the visibility states. What we'll be doing here is we want to set up the visibility states based on the grid and codes that we're putting together. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll either make an Excel file or I'll write these down on the side of my notebook paper. And I'm going to write down each code that I see or that I know exists in this mess of visibilities. Let's see. Yeah, because we're essentially going to be creating a visibility state or like a layer kind of for each of these drawings. So that layer does need to match the code of the digits that we've already talked about and set up. So going back here, those layers are going to be named after these different codes like that. And we'll name them in this order where the X's are. We'll replace these with actual numbers when we do it. All right, cool. So let's see. Here, visibility states, it will also be important to keep the entire grid and drawing on a visibility in case we need to pull it for later. Now, I usually put that on a layer, just I'll name it whatever. In this case, I did name it like Bible layer, so like we don't want to mess with it. It's there, but it's there for reference only. So if I go back to the original block, I go back to the original block here for the countertop, be able to show you kind of like what I'm talking about. Unless I messed it up. I might have messed it up. Yeah, I think I did. Anyway, the first layer that I have here is going to include all of the entire grid. So I made that layer for visibility state. I just labeled it Bible. It's not a code or anything like that. It's just, I just needed to put something there. So I threw that in there. That's our first one. So once we've set that up, you can kind of see all the different numbers that are in this block. So there's quite a few here. I go over visibility states. I wonder if it'll let me actually count them. I guess not, but that's okay. So what we're going to do with this is we're going to go back to the other block over here. Okay, and we have this method of approach. And what we're going to do is we're going to go into Excel. I'm going to make an Excel spreadsheet, which is only going to be used to be able to keep track of all the different combinations that we have available to us in the block. So let me just kind of split this up a little bit. We'll minimize this so we can get a good idea of what we're looking at. Okay, so let's start with digit 1. Digit 1 is the thickness of the countertop. And so really, if you think about it like this, let me paste these over here. Digit 1 really should be this. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, and 4. Just like that. Okay, and then down here, you're also going to have the same deal. So we'll start with this one as digit 1. Or sorry, it'll be, sorry, digit 2. But these are like the actual numbers that'll go in the place of that digit in the code. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4 for the different thicknesses, and 1, 2, and 3 for the different different subtop types. I'm just going to paste these over here. Makes it easier for us to kind of keep track of the stuff. All right, so let's start with this. We're looking at the first grid. Okay, and our code is going to be 5 digits. So we're starting with the, you zoom out here. Thickness is digit number 1, followed by subtop type. So what I'm going to do is just go up the grid here. So we're going to go 1 here for this guy. The thickness of your first countertop at 12 millimeters. And then we have 1-1, so 12 millimeters, full subtop. Okay, and let me think about this and make sure I got this right. Okay, so we have those digits there, we have these digits here. Okay, cool. Ledger off would be 0. Scribe off would be 0 as well. Back apron off would also be 0. Anyways. I will be changing these out here in just a sec. Okay. All right. So anything off is a 0, anything on is a 1. Oh, goodness gracious. Oh, that's off. Never mind. Never mind. All right. Kind of a lengthy process, but I do promise you guys, as soon as you get through it, though, the block is actually pretty cool. Be able to use it this way. It opens up a lot of doors as far as what you can and can't do with the block editor versus like just using the standard visibility states. Instead of doing that, you can use these lookups to be able to program these to do some other really cool stuff. Anyways, so going back to our code here. So looking at this first grid, let's just ignore the rest of the grids here for right now. Let's hide them. All right, let's just focus on this one. So here's our grid. So our first square is a 1-1, and then we have ledger, scribe, and apron. So we're going to go 1-1. Oh my gosh, 1 minute. 1-1-0-0-0. All right, that's square number 1. So we've got that knocked out. Let's move up to square 2, and we're going to go 2-1 for full subtop. And then we're going to go 0-0-0 again. We'll go up another square. We'll just keep going this way. We'll go 3-1 again. -0-0-0. All right. And we're going next, number 4 for a 3/4, 1 for full subtop, and then the rest are all zeros here. Okay, so that we've knocked out this first column. Those are the 4 codes for that column. We're going to be doing the 4 codes for this column next, which are similar enough. We're going to start with the thickness again, keeping that consistent. So we start with thickness, followed by subtop, and then these 3 numbers below. So 1, dash 2 dash 0 0 0 2 dash 2 dash 0 0 0 3 dash 2 whoops 0 0 0 and 4 dash 2 dash 0 0 0. And again, this is another time consuming part of this process. I think I even noted that in here somewhere too. Right here, another side note, another time consuming part, but also really, really important. So as we get through this, that's where all of those numbers come from. And so we just need to continue on to the next grid. And let's see, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We got 8 grids, but technically the last 3 don't have any visibility, so we only have 5. And some of these get even more narrower as we go, so there's really less to do. Anyways, we'll just focus on the next one here. So we're gonna isolate these. Not even worry about the other ones, and we'll just keep on moving. So again, starting with digit 1 or your thickness, and your subtop for digit 2, and then these 3 digits down here are the different codes that go into this grid. So 1 dash 1 dash 1 dash 0 0. Let me go up to the next one. So 2 dash 1 dash 1 0 0. And then 3 dash 1 dash 1 0 0. I feel like I'm playing a puzzle game over here, like detective or something. 4 dash 1 dash 1 dash 0 0. And then moving on, there are no other ones. Okay, so we don't have anything. Oh wait, there's one more here. Almost forgot. So this one here is view or thickness 3, followed by subtop number 3. So 3, 3, 1, 0, 0. Okay, so that grid's taken care of. We can move on to the next. This one only has 2. So this will be very easy. So again, we're starting with, it looks like we're only dealing with the countertop thickness here. So we're going to go 4-1 for subtop type, and then 0, 1, 0. And then 4-2 0, 1, 0. All right, and that's it. We're done with that one. All right. Let's see, unhide. Move on to the next, which only contains 1, which is just 4-1 1 1 0. 4-1 1. Wait, 1 1 0. Okay. There we go. All right. And we got one more to go. Okay. So last set, again, just like the rest of these, we're going to start with the square, work our way up the column, and same with that. So we're going to start with countertop thickness of number 1, subtop of number 1, and then 0 0 1 for the other settings below. So 1-1 0 0 1. Oh, one sec. 2-1 0 0 1. -1 0 0 1 and 4-1 0 0 1. And then moving on to column 2. Okay, starting over at 1 for thickness, subtop of 2, 0 0 1. Subtop or countertop thickness, subtop type, ledger, apron. 3-2 0 0 1 and 4-2 0 0 1. Whew. All right. Here we go. So we've gotten through all of those. So the rest of these have X's on them, meaning that we do not have to input these values into the list of the different views that we need. So what we're going to do now is we're going to hang on to these numbers here. These numbers are very critical as far as getting this set up. So what we usually will do with that then is we are going to set up a visibility state. Okay, so your visibility state is just like what we talked about yesterday, and we were doing some practice stuff. It's just a button that the user uses typically to switch between different views. This one is a little weird. We're going to make it so the user can't actually use it, but that's okay. It's for, it's going to make sense later. So what we're doing here is we're going to put in a visibility state. I just dropped it right at 0, 0 at the XY origin. And in our instructions, let's see if I have a label for it. Okay. I think I just labeled it visibilities. Yeah. All right. Man, oh man. And I'm not expecting anybody to remember how to do every one of these steps because this is something that I would have to have in front of me as well, having these instructions with me here. So, all right, we've got the visibilities or visibility parameter set in, and we're going to go up here to where visibility states live. Okay, and we're going to go into here. We need to set up these codes in here. So having these in front of us here really helps. So we can just copy and paste right off of there. So let's leave this one alone. We'll say like, do not touch. This will be the one with the grid. All right. What we're going to do is we're going to hit new now, and we're going to make a new visibility. And in this visibility, we're going to say hide all existing objects for this new state. So we don't want to see anything in here when this visibility is created. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go over to the side and we're going to start using these, and we can either copy these in or we could type them out. I'd rather kind of copy them in myself because it eliminates more user input error. Like if I was to just retype them, I might have like a little bit of a moment where I typed the wrong digit by mistake. So what I'm going to do is make a new visibility for each of these. And it may not make a lot of sense right now, but as soon as we get all of this information put in, these codes are going to be, well, they're hidden in the background, but they will be able to, like having these in there will allow the user to be able to use like those drop downs we talked about. They're also called lookups here, and be able to just say, hey, I want a subtop here, or hey, I want to put like a ledger block here, and it'll allow them to type that in and just have the block change on its own. So again, just take a little time. You got to be a little patient, especially when you're dealing with a complicated block like this. So, all right, almost there. Ah. All right, guys, sorry about that. I wish I would have had this set up, but there's really not a good way to do that without skipping steps. So I'd rather show you guys how to do this from start to finish. For like the actual practice one, I'll probably do one that I've been meaning to make anyway. That way it's a little bit less drop downs here because right now this has a ton of drop downs to it. Anyway, do not touch, we'll leave that alone. That's going to be the one that houses the entire grid. So if I go back to my visibility toolbar up here, I go over to do not touch, you're going to see all of that show up. All right, so after we set up all the visibility states, let me zoom out a little bit so I can actually see what's going on here. Okay. Oh, right. So we also need to make sure that we're stacking these up too. So like, what I mean by that is like, as you are looking at the block editor, sure, it's nice to have all of this stuff here in a grid. That's cool. But if you were to switch between visual states or visibilities, and you only had everything in that grid, as the user switches between different views, your countertop is going to jump from like here to here to here and like so on. Like you want them all stacked up on top of each other because when they switch the different settings, you're toggling between different views essentially. And if you have those countertops in different places in those different views, it will look like it's jumping around. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with number 1. I'm going to click this button here, which is the visibility mode. You can also type in BV mode apparently, and that will allow you to kind of see things that are not on this visibility state. They're in a different visibility state, but they will allow you to see them anyway, just grayed out. All right, so let's look at what we're dealing with here. So we're on this visibility, which is 11000, and 11000 is this guy here. All right, so I'm going to use the copy command or copy base. I'm going to move this. I'm going to paste it all the way down here to 00. Okay. And when I do that too, it actually brings that onto that visibility state as well. So I don't have to go through and highlight and say yay or nay, I want this on this view. It's already there. So I'm kind of picking and choosing off of that grid what I want to see here. Okay, so the next one is 21000, which would be this countertop here. So again, copy base. And what I want to do is use the same base point here and paste it right there. Okay, and then I'm going to switch my view to the next one, 31000, which is 31000. So that'd be this guy here. Copy base. And paste it down here. All right, and then just continuing that process down. We'll just finish this out here. And matching up your view or your visibility state with the corresponding countertop in your set of counters here. All right, 12000. This guy. Base.
Jacob.
Yeah.
Just a question.
Mm-hmm.
If we're doing something like this, but it requires hatching, would we need to do that before or after we get to like make the block fully? Like, would we need to put the hatching in before this step right here, or would it need to be just would we need to go back in after and edit the for whatever, like since it's a subtop, you know?
Mm-hmm. That is an excellent question. Let me go ahead and kind of go through that with you guys real quick because let me finish this grid here and then I'll show you guys why the hatching part is kind of important. So yeah, really good question there. 42000. Okay, so that's right. Anyways, yeah, the hatching does matter. So I'm glad you brought that up. And you want to make sure there are a couple things you want to really look at with hatches in the block editor. 111 Oh, hold on a sec. Sorry. I skipped one here. Three, 2, 0, 0, 0. Oh, it's right there. Oh, I messed something up. I don't know what I did. 3, 2, 0, 0, 0 should be 3, 2. Oh, maybe I had that right. Sorry. I don't know. That was confusing. And you want to make sure that you are paying attention to your codes because they will matter. Why can't I find that one though? Should be 3, oh, 3, 3, 0, 0, 0. That would be why. And I may have forgotten to make a layer for that. Looks like I did. It's okay. I'm gonna go ahead and make one right now. 3, 3, 0, 0, 0. Oops. Okay, sorry about that. But yeah, let's talk about that hatching here now that I've got this pretty much wrapped up. So when you're building a block, and we'll do a separate one here. So I'll close this for right now. And we'll make a block over here, for example. So, well, we'll just take one of these countertops. I suppose we can just do that. Let's say this is your block that you're working on and it doesn't have all those extra functions. We'll just start with this. So block hatch example. Okay, quickly going through that so I can put this in the block editor here. So the moral of the story is you can hatch stuff ahead of time. There is no problem with that, but if you do hatch things ahead of time, I would strongly suggest instead of using the hatches in your tool palette, what you probably want to do most likely is you're probably going to want to actually go and type in hatch here, which will bring up the hatch toolbar in here. And something that is worth noting for when you're dealing with an object in your block editor is you want to make sure that this associative box is highlighted. Okay, because if it is not highlighted, what is going to happen is when you go to stretch this countertop, the hatching actually won't go with it. So I know you've probably seen that in some blocks in the past, but you always want to make sure when you're making a block with hatching that you use the associative here, which will actually link it or lock it to the outline of whatever object you select. So start by typing in hatch, go up to associative, and we're going to go here to where it says select, which is to select a boundary to put the hatch in. I wouldn't use the pick point option, which is the one we're more used to seeing. Pick point is like if you click on that and highlight over something, you can click inside of an object and it will drop a hatch in there. This one here, select, it will allow you to select a outline of something. So for example, like this. And as long as it's like a closed polyline, it should let you to select the entire thing. And with that select border option and or select boundary option and the associative option selected, once you drop that hatch in there, you shouldn't have anything to worry about as far as like if I was to add, like yesterday we talked about linear parameters. I'm going to drop one in here. I'm going to set my number of grips to 1 and then add a stretch function to or stretch action to that linear parameter. So select that object, select the bottom right corner to the top left, and same with that. Hit enter, drop that in there. Now we can test it to make sure it worked. I will say it is pretty finicky, so sometimes it doesn't always work, and you might have to rehatch it, but it looks like it's working here. But it does go a little bit goofy. You can see like before you drop it, it still has not stretched the hatch. So just to keep that in mind, and again, I appreciate the question. It was really really thoughtful question there because yeah, if I was to just do the standard hatching, I'll show you what that would do and why you want to avoid that here. So if I was to drop in, let's say our standard plywood hatch right off of the tool palette, and then I go and redo my stretch like this. Let's see if it works. Oops, I'm going to test block instead of that. It probably won't. Yeah, I like see how it does that. So it's like the hatch stays exactly the same as it was. It does not stretch with the rest of the object, so it does one of those numbers, which is kind of annoying, but you can always avoid that though by using the associative hatch in your hatch toolbar, just by either typing in H or typing out hatch, and then going up here to make sure associative is selected, and you select the boundary object. Now, one other thing that may or may not affect this too is I've already got the stretch selected, and it's not including the hatch now because the hatch is brand new and it wasn't there when I made the stretch function. So you can play around with that too. I think as long as it's associative, like the hatching is associative to your boundary, that it will stretch with it, but it may. Oh, it actually does. Okay, cool. Just wanted to make sure because sometimes if you were to hatch something after you set up your stretch action, it won't carry with it. So yeah, you can hatch things ahead of time if you like. That's no big deal. You can hatch them after the fact too, apparently. But you just want to make sure that you're using the hatch toolbar versus like these guys, because these guys aren't associative. They just look for a closed object and drop a hatch in there. Whereas like if you go up here, you can actually turn that on, making it so like whatever the boundary of this rectangle is, like if it shrinks, grows, increases in height, that hatch is going to follow that boundary no matter where it goes. So yeah, good question though. Nice segue because like we haven't talked about that yet. All right, I'll go
We'll
back
be
to
able to
here.
take just a super quick little bathroom break.
Yeah, that's fine.
Right.
I was about to ask if you guys wanted
Awesome.
to, so.
Sweet. I'll be right back.
All right. Okay. We all back? Oh, me neither. Hmm. I just realized how messy my hair was today. Man, like a frizz ball up here. Um,
The headphones don't help with having your hair a certain way.
oh
It's
yeah.
like,
You ever you ever see like the um it's like this thing that's like a joke. It's like human evolution through like today's age with gamers and how gamers have like this headphone bump on the top of their head from always wearing their headsets.
oh god, that sounds awful.
Yeah. I think it's probably not real, but like it is pretty funny though.
No, it would have had to have they would have had to have been gaming as babies for that to be the case.
Yeah, well their skull was still settling.
Hmm.
You know what I should do? Wear Terry's hat. How about that? That's the only hat that I have here, so one sec. All right. That's a 10-4 right there. Trucker hat. Okay. And Callie's still in the bathroom, I take it. Hmm. Oh my gosh. I guess I can take this time. Oh, okay, we're all back. So I guess I could take this time and check to see if I have any um okay. Sounds good. Set up a meeting real quick in Teams. Hmm. This is for or no, Friday, not tomorrow. We're gonna be going over that new job. Hot diggity dog. Be having some new work. Oops. Okay, I did something here. Okay. Let's see. Cook County, that's what it was. 6404. Cook County handoff meeting. Merting. Why it won't even let me autocorrect it. I spelled that poorly. Handoff meeting, and that is for Friday, which is the 28th. Yep. Okay. 2/28, last day of the month. Believe it or not, we are out of February into March. Wild. Absolutely wild. Okay, so I need Eddie in there. I need Sam and Josh and Dave and Nathaniel. So Dave Sora's in. I think that's it. Make sure there's nobody else that needs to be there. I guess I'll invite Greg too, because Greg was initially the PM on. I don't know if he's going to be there or not, but all right. And it's at 8 a.m. his time, which would be 9 a.m. our time. Got it. With 10, 9 to 10, 6404. Oh my gosh. There we go. And make sure I have the date right. Okay. A lot of times I'll forget to put the actual date of the meeting and then it just sends it for today. I'm like, that's not right. All right, but we're good. All right. I'll stop. So let's get back to it real quick. All right. So we were talking about this block. We're not on the do not touch layer, but we are on a different layer. We stopped with the first grid. So we were moving on to the second grid, which should be 1, 1 for the starting digits. 1, 1, 0, 0, 1. 1, 1. Oh, wait, that's not right. Sure, I got that right. 1, 1, 0, 0, 1. Oh, that's a different one. No wonder why. Okay, I need to be on 1, 1, 1. Did I really just skip over that on accident? 1, 1, 1. Pull up my list and check this again. For some reason, it looks like I might be missing. No, it's there. 1, 1, 1, 0, 0. 1, 1, 1, 0, 0. Okay, it is there. I just for some reason didn't see it. There it is. Oh, I feel smart. Okay, so copy this over here. Let's see. What did I do? Did I use I used the subtop, I guess. Okay, no big deal. I'm using the bottom of the subtop to paste this down to here. And then 2, 1, 1, 1. Wait, 2, 1, 1, 0, 0. Okay, so 2, 1, 1, 0, 0. Okay, so that would be this. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. All right, 3, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 0. Remember when I said entering the matrix? This is exactly what I was talking about. We got all these codes we got to follow, make sure that we're actually doing everything right. Otherwise, if we don't, what's going to happen is the user's going to pick something in the list, and then it's not actually going to do anything, like do the right thing in the block. I'm not going to go into linear parameters with this or anything today. I think we will, let's see, 4, 1, 1, 0, 4, 1, 1, 0. Oh, there it is. 3, 3, 1, 0, 0. Okay. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to do any linear parameters on the countertop because that was a sort of a whole nother thing with making this block. So what I really want to do is just show you how to really set these up. So we're almost there though. We're on the 3rd out of the 5th grid here. So let's see, 4, 1, 0, 1, 0. So 4, 1, 0, 1, 0. That would be this. Oops. Copy base. Oh no. Okay. Copy base. Come on. Come on. 4, 2, 0, 1, 0. 4, 2, 0, 1, 0. Cool. All right. I probably should have did an easier block to start with, but the one in the example was mostly there because it had a lot of information to it. 4110. In case someday I'm ever just like gone for whatever reason, then like somebody can follow these steps, hopefully. Copy base. Jeff was actually the one that found these, or how to build these blocks. And you'll see that later in the notes. I threw his name in there as a credit to him for figuring this out. 11001. Yeah, he definitely figured something out there that was pretty cool. All right. 21001. Wait, 2 1. All right, so 2 1 0 0 1. Oh, that's this grid over here. So 2 1 0 0 1. That'd be this guy. Okay, cool. Three 1 0 0 1. Okay. Oh man, oh man. 41001 or 1001. Let me do this grid here. 41001. Okay, cool. Almost there, almost there.
Do any of y'all watch Futurama?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why?
Hearing all this 001 reminds me of that episode where Bender found the way to time travel and it was through binary code.
That doesn't surprise me. I can't remember a lot of that show because it was, I think I binge watched it. Was my problem.
Every time he said the code to get him to time travel, he sped it up, so it just sounded like a bunch of gibberish.
It got faster and faster with each time he did it. Yeah.
Such a goofy show.
It's one of the best shows of all time.
Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on if you've seen it, Disenchanted?
I haven't really seen it. I
Okay.
noticed it was like the same style though.
Yeah, it's still Matt Groening, I think, like the artist that did Simpsons and all that. So just a different type of thing. Like it's kind of like Futurama, but in medieval times a little bit. Kind of. 32001. 32001. By the time we're done with this, we'll have time traveled to Friday.
It works for me. I'll be happy with that.
I mean, really, it's funny because it really is like you're building computer code, though, in a program that I don't know. It's like it's already got code in it, I'm sure, but you're building code within the codeception. 32001 42001 001. I was over here. 420. There we go. Got it. Yeah. Pretty crazy
If we
stuff.
do too many layers, we'll transcend the machine code limitations and it'll become sentient.
Oh my gosh. Oh, AutoCAD better watch its days. All right, 33000. Wait. Oh, I already did that one. That was over here. I was like, wait a minute. That was that one that I forgot though, and I had to add it later. Okay. I'm gonna save this real quick. Are you guys good with taking lunch real fast and then coming back? We can finish up the last of the steps here once we get back.
Yeah, sure.
All right. So we've got our visibility states, just recapping a little bit of where we're at. Let me zoom out a tiny bit so you can actually see what we're dealing with here. All right. So we looked at the napkin sketch at the bottom of the set. We entered the matrix, as in like we typed in all of our codes in Excel. We set up all of our AutoCAD drawings, and we did that too. I guess these two steps could be interchangeable depending on like what you're dealing with, but probably want to do the AutoCAD drawing first. Actually, maybe I got to switch that. Anyways, yeah, we set up all of those multiplication grids, which again, a little more complicated than what you'd used to be seeing for something like this, but still good example of how to do multiple drop downs in a block. And then what else did we do? We set up the visibility states in the block editor. So we labeled all of those based on that Excel file that we typed out. We left a standard layer or standard visibility that contains all of the grid, which we won't be able to access that anyway when we make the block, but it'll be there. Yep, and we have done this step here, which was making the correct drawings visible on in their visibility state that they need to be on. One last thing I'll do here, I think it's down here anyway, but it's important to use this command here called bvhide, which is going to actually hide the dropdown from the user so they can't actually get to it. Because right now, if I click on the block, I can actually get to this and actually show all the different visibilities. And actually, it sounds weird that we're going to hide that, but we're going to hide this so that way the user does not mess with it. So there's a command called bvhide. And if you highlight that visibility there and then go all, it's going to hide that visibility changer for all the different layers that we've created here. So we're going to do that. And then I think we'll take our break here. I'll go ahead and save where we're at. As soon as we get back, we will continue on to the next step, which is the Jeff quote, "The invisible ball controls it all," which we'll talk about what that is. It's like another step in the construction of these blocks that actually makes it so you can toggle different things in the block by tricking AutoCAD into working the way you want it to. Anyway, we'll talk more about that here in just a moment, but you guys got questions or anything before we take our lunch? Okay. Well, in that case, I will close the call here. It'll end up being like 2 parts, but that's okay. And then when we get back, I'll try to remind myself to make sure to hit that record button, so that way we don't lose anything here. Make a note here somewhere. Here we go. It's like, it'll work. Hit record. Okay, I got it. Okay. So on the after lunch, we'll go ahead and continue on from here then. Sound good?
Louise.
All right. Thank you guys. All right. See you in a little bit.